Ever bought a cheap projector screen and found it washed out the moment you tried watching a movie in a bright room? I've seen that disappointment enough to make me double-check every spec before I even think about pulling the plug on a home theater project. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The AWOL Vision 120-inch daylight screen promises a brighter image without the glare you normally get from standard matte white screens. And the big question is whether it actually delivers a smarter by compared to the budget rolls that end up looking like a foggy sheet. When you step into the projector screen market, the first thing you run into is a split between ambient light screens and the classic matte white options that work best in dark rooms. The trade-off is simple. A higher gain surface reflects more of the projector's light, which helps when you can't fully black out the space. But that same reflectivity can make hotspots if the projector isn't perfectly centered. Most first-time buyers aren't aware that a screen rated for daylight use will look dramatically different from the same screen in a cinema-dark basement. That's why I spent a few days reading forum posts and watching YouTube comparisons before even unboxing the AWOL Vision model. The first thing you notice about the 120-inch version is its sheer size. At roughly 10 feet wide, it's the sweet spot for a dedicated home theater room or a large living room wall where you want a cinematic feel without going full 16:9. Installation is a bit of a dance. The screen comes with a tensioning system and pre-drilled holes for mounting brackets, so you need a stud finder, a drill, and a bit of patience to get it perfectly flat. In my own setup, I used two wall anchors spaced about 5 feet apart and tightened the tension bars until the surface felt taut, much like hanging a picture frame, but on a larger scale. The process took an hour, which is reasonable for a screen of this size, and once it's up, the material stays smooth without the ripples you sometimes see on cheaper pull-down screens. What matters most is what you actually see on it. The AWOL Vision surface is engineered with a high-gain, silver-tinted coating that pushes the reflectivity up to roughly 1.4. In a room with two large windows and a ceiling fan that never really turns off, the screen gave me a noticeably brighter picture compared to a standard white screen I tried before. When I cranked the projector to 2,500 lumens for a sports night, the image stayed punchy and the colors didn't look washed out, even with the sun setting just outside. For gamers, that extra brightness meant that fast-moving FPS titles retained their contrast, and the subtle boost helped dark scenes stay visible without turning up the projector's ISO to an uncomfortable level. In short, the screen lives up to its daylight label in a way that makes a real difference for anyone who can't afford a blackout curtain. The flip side is that the same reflective coating that gives you extra brightness can also make the picture look a little too sharp in a perfectly dark room. If you're the type who enjoys a cinema-dark environment with a projector that's already powerful, you might notice a slight halo around bright objects, especially if the projector isn't perfectly centered. The screen's surface also reflects ambient light in a way that can create a faint glare when you sit directly in front of a bright window, so placement relative to natural light sources still matters. The material itself is lightweight, which is great for shipping, but it means the frame isn't as rigid as some premium fixed-frame screens. Over time, if you have a very active household with kids climbing on furniture nearby, you might have to retension the edges every few months to keep the surface flat. So, who should walk away with this screen, and who should keep looking? If you have a living room that doubles as a home office, a family room with large windows, or a dedicated media space where you can't afford full blackout treatment, this 120-inch daylight screen is a solid middle ground. It gives you enough gain to fight off ambient light without demanding a projector that's in the 5-figure range. It also works well for sports bars, college dorms, or anyone who wants a big image for movie nights on a budget. On the other hand, if you're building a darkroom home theater with a high-end 4K projector, a fixed-frame matte white screen will probably give you deeper blacks and a more uniform picture. Likewise, if you're looking for a portable, quick setup screen that you can take on the road, the fixed-size tension system might feel too permanent. Overall, the AWOL Vision 120-inch daylight screen lands in a sweet spot that most casual buyers overlook. It's big enough to feel immersive, bright enough to handle everyday lighting, and